Jeffrey Stacey. He's a national security consultant and former State Department official in the Obama administration. Really appreciate your time, sir. Do you think President Biden made the right decision with this?
I'm afraid not. And of course, I served not directly under him in the Obama administration, but obviously in the same administration when we viewed things much more similarly. But I'm afraid our president, who's really making all good moves domestically and pretty much everywhere else across the board foreign policy terms, not on this one. This could not be a worse call for U.S. interests, Afghan interests, Turkish interests, NATO interests. I could go on and on. This is directly in the interests of the Taliban, number one, Russia and China, number two, Pakistan, maybe even more so than the other two, but you get the idea.
Well, just you mentioned Turkey in that, and there are meant to be Afghan peace talks taking place here in Istanbul. How does this decision from Biden now impact Turkey's role in that peace process?
Quite dramatically, in fact. And it would be helpful, I think, if Turkish diplomats and President Erdogan were to give Joe Biden a call on this, because, in fact, this marginalizes the role of the upcoming so-called peace talks in Istanbul. For all intents and purposes, the Taliban have said that they will not participate in these talks. And if you don't have the Taliban there, how are the Afghans supposed to negotiate before all these troops leave? This was a debate that we had back under President Obama, and Joe Biden lost this debate as vice president. In fact, the upcoming meeting in Istanbul now will likely lead to nothing substantial at all whatsoever, and that is really too bad. This was a mistake that started in the Trump administration. It is highly ironic that it's been carried out now by President Biden and his team. I can tell you this, not a single aide, not a single military officer, not a single cabinet member, not a single expert told the president to do this. They all, and especially our military officers, the head of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, the head of CENTCOM, General McKenzie, and General Miller in the Afghan theater, all spoke resolutely, do not do a runner on the Afghans prematurely. The peace deal that we seek is not that far away, but it requires concerted pressure on the Taliban, primarily on the battlefield. It's ironic. In Afghanistan, the cart actually needs to come before the horse. Diplomacy follows the use of force. We do it in different directions everywhere else in the world, but the Taliban are an untraditional foe, and I'm afraid this is played right into their hands as they will wait out the departure of troops, and we risk, I'm afraid, an all-out, newfound civil war 2 decades after the Taliban were removed from power.
Well, if you say that no one agreed with President Biden on this, why did he go ahead and do it?
We are all scratching our heads. As recently as a week ago, a friend and mentor of mine, Tony Blinken, was saying quite the opposite. That, in fact, as Joe Biden had been hinting, the troops would stay. And he was correcting the bad tendency that the president had to attach a timeline to things, something we decided never to do back during the Obama administration for very obvious reasons. And it appears that, as he said himself, that way early in the Obama administration, when he went to Afghanistan and went to Kunar Valley, and he just decided right there and then that we could never succeed. Now, that is fallacious reasoning, and it is quite inaccurate in terms of what deep strategic analysis requires here. He really could be the president to win the peace in Afghanistan. Instead, he's made an abjectly bad decision, and I'm afraid it will reverberate for the rest of his presidency. In all likelihood, it will be considered the worst of his 4 or 8 years. The albatross, though, will hang around his neck for much longer because the repercussions of this decision are very grand indeed are spinning out in multiple directions.
And of course, it will be the Afghan people that will be most affected. Jeffrey Stacey, really appreciate your time and your analysis. Thank you.